In today's video, let's see what is Mulesoft, and also we will see what is API, Web API and API integration. So before going into API discussion, first let's see what is Mulesoft. So Mulesoft is a software company which gives us multiple tools which we can use to build the application, deploy and manage the applications. So let's see where these features are available and where do we get the information. So if you log into any point Mulesoft, you can see all the available features here. We get design center where we can define the API specification, exchange from where we can get the connectors. Anypoint Studio is an IDE which will be used to build the application. So I have already downloaded it. So if you want to build an application, Mulesoft application, you can download this IDE. And also you can see the runtime manager which will be used to deploy and manage the application. Monitoring is there where we will monitor the logs once you deploy the applications. So there are many other features, so you can log into this Anypoint Mulesoft and explore more. Now let's go back to the API discussion. What is API? So API is our tool which will be used to perform some task. For example, when we say Java Stream APIs, those APIs will actually process a collection of objects, right? They will do some task. But to do that task, we don't have to be connected to the internet. So once we download the dependency and have that jar in our local system, we don't have to connect to internet to access it. We can just start using that API because we already have that loaded in our local system, right? Yeah, that is API. But what is Web API? Web API is also a API does some task, but to use that you have to be connected to the internet. For example, we all have a Google account, right? So if you want to log into Google account, you have to give the username, password, and we'll have to click on login. So once you click on login, basically in the backend there will be a service call. There will be web service call to validate whether the user is the proper user, a valid user or not. So for that, that web service will be hosted somewhere outside. So we are very sure that that's not there in our system, but somewhere outside. To access that, we have to be connected to the internet. So the APIs which does some task, but to use them we have to be connected to the internet. Those are web APIs, web services. So what is API integration? To see what is API integration, we will have to understand few basic things why API integration is needed in real scenarios. Then we can understand why API's integration is important and how it is connected to the Mulesoft. So let's take an example of flight booking application. Let's assume we have flightbooking.com where we will allow passengers to book the flights. So let's think that 10 passengers booked a flight today, but unfortunately the flight is cancelled. In this case, I want to send 10 passengers the message saying the flight is cancelled or it can be delayed, right? I want to send them the notifications, but in my system I don't have that feature available as of now. So what we can do is we can buy that feature from outside, because there are already companies which does that work. So they will take the passenger details and all the necessary information and they will send the messages for us on behalf of us. Like they'll send the cancelled messages, email or the SMS. So now let's assume they're ready and they're ready to send the messages. Now we have to expose them the necessary information. In my internal system, I'll have multiple APIs and lot of information, lot of sensitive information, and the information that I really don't want to expose outside world, right? There can be multiple situations like that. In this particular case, let's assume you have the information that is needed to client is scattered across multiple APIs. You have flight information API which gives you the flight details. What is the flight number, when it's departing, from where to where, and all that information. When you call the booking API, you will get the information of that particular PNR. The passenger name, the details, contact information and all that. You may get to call the DP also to get some information, so that once you get all this information and you can consolidate the information, you may get hundreds of fields, but you will have to expose some 10 fields: flight information, the contact details and passenger name. And that's all that the client wants, so that they can start sending the messages to the passengers. But to achieve this, you have to integrate multiple applications, right? You will have to let two or more applications communicate each other and exchange the information. That's API integration. That's called API integration, and this can be done in multiple ways. You can write the code in your favorite language and do this API integration. For example, I can write the code in Java and call this REST API by creating using a REST client, then building the request, adding the parameters, query parameters, headers, and everything. Execute and get the response and extract the information. The same thing I can do for the second API. And to establish the DB connection, I have to register the driver, get the connection, create the statement, and then execute the query and close the connection. So when we write the query, not the query, the code manually, we'll have to write a lot of code. We have to handle each exceptions at each stage. We will have to take the complete responsibility basically. Even you will have to take the responsibility of closing the connection, right? When you connect to the DB and establish the connection, you have to close it properly once you are done executing the query. So we'll have to take the responsibility of many things. We will have to worry about many things when you write code and do the API integration. But the same thing can be achieved in MuleSoft in different way, and I can say much easily. So when you search what is MuleSoft, mostly you will get the information saying MuleSoft will be used for API integration. So this is API integration. Multiple applications will communicate and exchange the information and all that. So the MuleSoft is also recommended for API integration. But the work that we do manually, lot of the coding and all that will be reduced in the MuleSoft. So I have a Anypoint Studio. Let's see how easy or difficult it is. MuleSoft basically gives lot of predefined connectors, pre-built connectors. If you click on database, you have these many options. You can update, insert, select. You can do all these operations just by using these connectors. For HTTP also, we have listener and request you can use to call the API. And let's create an API. We have a demo. Let's create this demo API. It's not there and not running as of now. Let's create one. For that, you can use a listener to listen to that particular port. Add the connection details 8081 and localhost. Okay, and the path is demo, right? Add demo, save. Transform, we have to use transform message. Once we call the API, we have to get some response, right? Let's use that and hard code the response and save it. It's deployed. Call the API. We are getting the hard-coded response. So in the example we have spoke, we have a requirement to call 3 APIs, right? So now let's try to make a DB call. Let's connect to establish a connection to DB and execute some query and see how easy or difficult it is. To connect to DB, we have to go to database connectors and then let's use select. I have a MySQL server running, localhost 3306, and yeah, let's see the connection and connect to the same from MuleSoft. This is create a connection. It's a MySQL connection. I have already added the MySQL JDBC driver. If you don't have, you have to add. What's the host details? Localhost. Port is 3306. User root. Password. Okay. I have this query and getting 6 information from the system configuration table. So let's paste the same and save it. And here we have to get the payload. Because once we run the database connector, the response will be in the form of payload. The output is a payload, right? So let's print the same and see what we are getting. It's deployed. Let's see. We are getting the response. This is a response by running the query, and we are getting the information from the system configuration table. It's that simple. You don't have to create a statement, create a connection, register a driver and all that. You don't have to close the connection. You don't have to basically worry what's happening in the background. You just have to tell the connection details and execute a query. And if you have custom input parameter, you can pass from here. And that simple it is. If you want to connect call the flight API. Sorry, here in the example we had a flight API and booking information calls as well, right? If you want to call that, you have to use a HTTP request and make a request call, a get request or post and all by defining the details. You can give the port, host, whether it's HTTP, HTTPS and all that details, just like the DB connection. Once you give the connection, and for APIs, you can give what's the body, header, query parameters, URI parameters. Once you give all the details, then it's ready. That's all. You don't have to worry about what client they are using, how they are forming, executing the request and all. At the end, you will get the payload. You will get the response from the API. That's all. That simple it is. That's how the Mulesoft is recommended for API integration. In MuleSoft will let multiple applications communicate each other, exchange information each other in modern way. It's the easiest way I can say. Yeah, that's MuleSoft.